Welcome to another episode of Tres Leches Radio. Representing 1/3 of the trio is yours, Rad Soul, aka Big Moon Dog for the day. Gentlemen. What's going on? Introduce yourselves.
Be Montana 2K. We're going with the old school AOL names, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're taking it all the way back. You know who would be that boy Renzo Zoda God Renzmatic.
And yeah, guys, I hadn't used Zoom in so long. I was not ready for that second voice that says it's being recorded. So that's why we're a little thrown off here, but we're going to get it together. So as always, welcome back to Tres Leches Radio. You know, if you found us here, you can also find us on streaming at Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, everything at Tres Leches Radio. And with that said, B-Stacks, I don't know if you wanted to do the honors. I actually don't know who's doing the honors to kick it off.
Yeah, we can we can pass it along. It ain't like it's capital punishment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, baby.
But when you guys receive this episode, it'll be on February 7th, which is Pun.
2 days from today.
Pun's Death Day. So this is our Pun Spotlight, our tribute. It is the name of the brand that we created here. And so we're going to get into Pun and a little bit of us at the end of the segment.
For sure.
Absolutely. This one's been a long time coming. So I like that we'll have this one ready for the anniversary. What's that, 23 years? It'll be 23 years already.
Yeah. So, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy for real.
But yeah, I think before we, because I kind of wanted to ask the where were you when you found out question. But before we do that, I think B-Stacks, I think we want to know how do we all first come to learn about Pun?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So it's kind of late, honestly, because the first time I actually heard him, honestly, you know what? I'll correct myself. Not knowing who he was, Funkmaster Flex's Volume 1 mixtape. Pun had a freestyle with Joe on the I believe it was the Ice Cream Wu-Tang beat.
Oh, yeah. Brothers are rapping like a racket soldiers or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that's 95. And without knowing who he was, that is the actual time I heard him. And then later on, it was late. It was still not a player video. The original
one.
The I'm Not a Player. You're talking about the one with the what was that? The OJ's performing. It's a whole. Well, I think that's them performing in the video, right?
Yeah, in the video. Yeah.
It's all the whole. It's a whole Scarface theme video. Yeah.
It had to be that video or the other. Did he have a video for Boomerang?
Nah. So the I'm Not a Player video is 97, and I believe before that was like Off the Books, the Beat Nuts joint, which was also 97. Those are like the first two that I saw him in. Because I think after the I'm Not a Player, some months go by, then we get the Still Not a Player, which is in 98.
So I guess for that, in chronological order, then it's probably Off the Books. You know what I mean? I would say I didn't really pay attention to him until hit that solo video. It was weird, and I know Renz can contest, but like it felt like gimmicky. I'll be honest with you in that particular moment.
Wait, which video?
Just Pun in general, like as a solo act, because like Biggie had just died, and I'm like, yo, who is this? Like, who is it? It's when now we got a Puerto Rican big dude now. You know what I'm
like?
saying?
Who's the other fat guy? Like,
that was a joke for not a very long time.
Not at all.
This dude was legit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna say the first like couple of weeks it was laughable. Like, yo, what is this? And then you start listening, and you like, oh shit. Like, I start going back to like, okay, he was on Funk Flex's Volume 1. Oh snaps, he was on Fat Joe's second album, and I quickly became not a joke.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, and I think I was talking about on one of the previous episodes of the podcast about Pun, but I couldn't remember Zach MTV show. So when Off the Books came out, there used to be a show on MTV called, and it's funny, I remembered it because of the Chino XL song, because you mentioned the name of the show, but it was a show called 12 Angry Viewers, So essentially, it was I think it was Carson Daly's like kind of breakthrough show before TRL and all that. But essentially, they would just look at random videos, artists they never knew about. So Beaten Ups was on there, off the books. That's when I really knew about Pun. I didn't realize it till backtracking. So when that video came out, and they're kind of giving their commentary, between the segments of the song, and they're like, when Pun comes, they're like, "Who's this big guy? Big Punisher? What's a Big Punisher?" So they're already kind of clowning because of his weight, obviously. And like, is he trying to say he's the Punisher from Marvel? So they bashed the song like, "Oh, these guys ain't going nowhere."
Wow.
And so
I would love to find this video now, Renzo.
Yeah, I wonder if it's an archive, because they definitely trash Pun especially on there. And then like Brandon said, then I'm not a player, and I'm like, okay, this I wouldn't say gimmicky, but it almost came out like out of nowhere. Like I didn't really hear nothing on the radio. I just happened to see on Rap City. So I'm like, all right, who's this? This big dude. I'm like, he got a flow, but like I haven't heard anything prior, not realizing, off the books. But then like you saying, like, shout out to Kevin, like, when we were all talking about X and everybody else in 98, he was like, you need to check out this dude here. Pun, nasty Puerto Rican boy, Caribbean, our boy Kevin's Jamaican. So he's already looking at Caribbean connection, no pun intended. Just started diving in. I'm like, yo, this dude's a problem. That's the way, because when you look at him, and you hear him, it's like this big dude's spitting this rapid fire double time flow with such ease, the breath control. You know what I mean?
So large, like he was such a, he was so large. It's like, I say it was like laughable because it didn't seem real. Like, yo, how can a person do this?
Yeah.
The thing is, and I don't know, like a lot of like what he did with the Scarface videos, there was rappers already before then, like in the I'm Not a Player video, he did the Scarface. There was rappers before then doing like other mob movies in their videos. You know what I mean? So he wasn't even like the first guy. But I will say when he was at that weight, where he was big, but he wasn't like as big as he was at the time of his death. Even his peers, other MCs have said like they were there in front of him watching him rap, and they said like he can really hold that breath control, like for real. Yeah, he could actually do that. I mean, I pretty much, for me it was off the books. I remember when I saw Off the Books, I didn't know who was Terror Squad and who wasn't. I just saw a bunch of the Spanish dudes, because even in the video they're talking Spanish at the beginning. Then I'm Not a Player. The I'm Not a Player maxi single, I got that for that Christmas, and it has the Wishful Thinking on the B-sides, which has Be Real, Cool G Rap, and then the Still Not a Player. What happened?
You still own that?
Yo, I don't know if you guys could. It's somewhere up here. Hell yeah, I'm never letting that go. And nice. And then when the Still Not a Player video hit, like I remember, I always loved that. It just has so much bounce and flavor to it. But even the cameos in it, man. Yo, even Cormega's in that video. Montana. Cormega is actually he's one of the people they zero in on when they're going Boricua Morena. He's actually one of the people. Cormega is actually one of the many cameos in that.
And Pun was initially on The Testament as well, on Rhyme for Rhyme.
Rhyme for Rhyme, yeah.
That got shelved, but yeah.
Yeah, I got that one in the stash as well. I definitely liked that one. And then you know what? So that's how we find out about them. So again, then that brings us to what? Like the album drops, right? Like April 98, right? Like I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or if there was some other stuff or.
Yeah, we first impressions, we kind of already got through that. Yeah. Well, actually, before we get into the first album, let's all give like Pun, obviously, like he's a child of like multiple eras. I thought it'd be cool if we all just give like one offering from an artist that holds a component to Pun style.
Just like the Yeeeah Baby intro. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, one thing
I think somebody should lead off with the Cool G Rap one, because that's the most obvious one.
Yeah, I'll lead off with that. I mean, he 38 Special had an album, Cool G Rap, called The Son of Cool G Rap, but Pun was literally the son of G Rap. I look at almost like the Rakim Nas, thing where you got the originator being G Rap, but Pun was able to elevate what G Rap laid the foundation to. And we know about the story when he met G Rap, he bent the knee, you know what I mean? Considering like to pay, that type
That's
of
a factual
homage,
story. That's not even embellished.
Yeah, that's not even about a story. Like that's the respect that he had for G-Rap, and I think G-Rap, I think he kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. A lot of times we talk about A-Rap, we'll talk about KRS, we'll talk about obviously Rakim, Dad King, but I think a lot of times Cool G-Rap gets kind of lost in the shuffle. And you know how I, how I felt. I always felt G-Rap. That's from that era. That's always my personal favorite was G-Rap out of them all. Just because I felt as much as we talk about like Rakim and the structure he did, I think G-Rap about that double time mafioso style rap that so many people use as a blueprint for their careers. But one thing I wanted to add though, and I think nobody really think about this, but took me back to the Pun documentary, the very first one, where they were doing like the end cuts, and everything. Liza was talking about how that he studied Twista, and he got clowned for studying Twista at that time because you think about Twista probably one of the fastest rappers, period. But Liza was saying like, as far as his double time rapid flow, he tried to see how he can match his breath control and study Twista's songs in order not to rap the same style, but how I mean my side, how can I do a rapid fire? It was flow?
A technique strengthening exercise.
And I always felt that was interesting because we don't think about Twista as far as Pun. But when you listen to raps, you can say, the stuff that he did with Bone Thugs, off of Flesh and Bone, even off Crazy Bone. Like when you start see him go rapid fire, it's like, oh, and this is, remember this 400 or 500 pound dude, I can't even spit that fast. You know what I mean? And so, but G-Rap's obvious, but then Twisted like with some of them, the double time flow mechanics.
Yeah, and even G-Rap even said in the Vlad interview that he said what he liked about Pun is that it's obvious, right? He was like, Pun has always paid his homage. Pun has never, tried to act like he wasn't influenced by him. In addition to all that, G-Rap himself said that Pun took what he did and in different ways elevated it. Yeah. And the most obvious one, the most obvious example he used was like the Twins line. So he said when Pun would just go into like those, basically citing when Pun would go into like those hyper big Pun moments, he said those were moments where he felt like he took what G-Rap did and elevated it. So but yeah, like that's to me, that is hands down the most obvious one. I kind of have like a little bit of a left field answer. So B-Stacks, I think you should go next. Well, Renzo, I don't know if you were done. My bad. I'm not trying to.
Oh no. This was as I said, we talking about the G-Rap, and then like my little left field was a little bit of a twist as far as some of the mechanics, the bar structure and stuff.
Yeah, I think we all agree with G. Twist is a good one. I think for the Bronx, native ship, there's an obvious KRS-One component there, just like diction and dexterity, like in the lyrical plane. I'm not really talking about anything else, but just clear cut rhyming. You see that KRS-One image in him to me, like really obvious. And another one I had more for like the melodic side of him and the playful side and like being able to create song structure and pop value is Snoop. And I don't think that's a name that comes along cross with a Pun type of influence. But we would go on to see like what tracks like Twins where Pun is the Snoop, you know what I mean? And Joe is the Dre. And one could say, that's a cover that they did equal or better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's up for debate.
Feels like the Twins joint gets played more, right? Don't it seem like
Twins definitely gets played.
And that's
more.
me taking nothing away from Deep Cover, but it does seem like Twins gets played a little more.
Yeah. And that tells you right there. Deep Cover is it's probably
that was at the height. Yeah. That was at the height of their the Dre Snoop movement. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go Snoop, for the reasons I said earlier for influence.
I like these responses. They're the names we don't hear as often, but have you could definitely include.
Yeah, see the elements.
I would say, like I think the main one is I like that he was able to incorporate humor into his music. Who was doing that before him? Redman, New Jersey's own. I feel like he knew Pun was naturally a funny dude, as is Redman. So like even down to the music videos, he knew how to not just like throw some funny stuff into the music. He also knew how to visual, like a lot of those ideas, like the You Came Up video, they said was all Pun's idea. Like the whole jumping down and stuff like that. They said like, like he would say that to people and people were like, nah, like you're talking shit. And then like the video actually happened. And then the other one that I like, and this one is not so much hip hop, but I like that Pun always like that he included his Hispanic roots in there, all balled up with a twist of Mark Anthony, and then even this other guy Hector Lavoe, he's the inspiration to the 100% chorus
100%,
and bridge. It's literally from one of his songs that I think it's called El Día de mi Suerte. And that one, like, is so, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, we got the rappers, right? And there's plenty more. There's examples of Big Daddy Kane and Rakim we could include here if we wanted to. But like, to kind of add just a little bit of a different element, humorish, you know what I mean? Like, I laughed at some of the stuff he said the same way I would laugh at like Redman's humor. And then like, the Mark Anthony and the Hector Lavoe, where Pun knew where he was from, and he knew like the origins of like his people and how to include it in music. And that's where he was at the time of his death. You know what I'm saying? So everything we said, it goes into the big Pun gumbo. You know what I'm saying? But I like those. The Twista, Snoop, those are definitely examples you don't hear a lot of people mention and are very valid. I like those examples.
You know, you just made me think of too when you talk about the humor and stuff. Remember, Watch Those. The last line at the end of the verse. Shut my foot so far, your ass sweating my knee will quench your thirst. Yeah, and then you had to be like,
oh, yo, Renzo. I'm glad you mentioned that song because when there's another part in there where and me and my little brother were listening to this when we were listening to it for the first time. He goes caught him in the crapper with the clapper while he was doing cocky, and you gotta understand like that. First off, I'm almost 40 and I'm still gonna laugh at that line. But when we heard that 20 years ago, me and my little brother looked at each other and we like laughed where we weren't making noise because we weren't expecting. First off, it's a clever rhyme scheme, right? Caught him in the crapper with the clapper, and then he ends it with something so childish while he was doing cocky. That had me like holding my belly. That stick my foot so far up your ass, it's what I'm gonna quench your thirst. Damn, man, I miss this guy, man.
The fact that he was proud of his culture and he let it shine through the music too was like really like a splash of brilliance, man, because you didn't really see that. You don't really see that after, really, but no one definitely before.
Not to his level. Yeah, not to his
that level. And it wasn't forced. You know what I mean? Like anytime it would be street culture, hip hop culture, Hispanic culture. He would throw it all in comedy, and it fit. It definitely.
And it's funny you mentioned that too, because even when you look at like acts like Cypress Hill, like even when people found out there were Cubans, like they didn't really put it out there. When after Punk came, then next you got the Cypress Hill doing the rap, Spanish rap out. Now they're talking about Cuban, and you see that with other acts, even like Nori start, we saw Nori start doing the reggaeton movement,
and he can't even speak Spanish. Like my Spanish is not good, but I'm just like Nori can't even speak Spanish. But he had the Oye Mi Canto like in 2004, and that I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. So you had a lot of rappers, more embracing their culture. I think once Punk came in, he's like, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm so gonna take it whoever down, don't matter. Before everybody kind of kept it on a DL because almost like. And it's crazy and sad too, because when we look at a lot of these artists, especially the Afro-Latino artists, they were almost like, I wouldn't say denying it, but they felt like they couldn't put it out there.
Maybe they felt like it was, they may have been thinking about it in like they may be thinking a little bit safe, like marketability, and they maybe weren't as bold to like throw it out there. Like it always takes somebody to be like, fuck it, I'm going to try it anyway. And that to your point, they didn't do it. It makes you wonder, did they want to, and they just didn't have the courage?
I think the only exception was, I think the only exception was Mellow Man and Ace, Sean, Sendog's brother, kind of put out there, but then, he kind of plateaued.
Out, baby, I remember that.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is you mentioned the Latin thing. I mean, Pun's popularity got him on songs with J-Lo and Ricky Martin during the Latin explosion. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just because he did that, like, and he made it be known. So, I was gonna probably talk about that more later, but I think now. Oh, my bad. Go ahead, B-Stacks.
Yeah, you're all good, bro. We gotta focus on his on the discography. We'd be remiss without focusing on that. So the first album, Capital Punishment, comes out, and I mean, I want to believe it was platinum within the same year. What were you guys like first impressions on that album? Like standout cuts, moments, like your feelings, as we try to break this down.
Yo, man, I remember I anticipated that one so bad because like I remember from that I'm Not a Player maxi single, right? I got that like Christmas 97 to April of 98 when the album drops. That felt like an eternity, especially when in between then Still Not a Player drops and, you know, is a hit, right? Capital Punishment, my brother bought it for me, and I loved that it was a long album because of the fact that it felt like every song was good. But as years go by and you put the fanaticism aside and you really look at it, you know, I always thought that this album was like a masterclass in literally just what's it called, like lyricism, subject matter range, the execution of the content, the sequencing, because it's a 24-track album. You know what I'm saying? I noticed years later that when you look at the album, there isn't a stretch of the album. This album has 24 tracks. There isn't a stretch of the album where there's more than 3 songs in a row. You know, like there'll be 3 songs and then you get to a Pack and a Mac, or you get to a Rain in the Sun kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it seems like the details, like in terms of structuring this, was really like the effort was put into there, you know, blending the skits in. This album's probably the last time I enjoyed ever hearing Funkmaster Flex on the radio. You know what I'm saying? You know, and to kind of just, and I'll stop it, you know, I'll pause after this. I felt that they matched the perfect sound for him at that point in his career. So that's like that's like my executive summary of it without, you know, there's more to say, but I loved it. I instantly loved it. I still do love it. I'm curious, how was it for you guys? Because I didn't know, the people don't know, we didn't know each other at this time. Brandon and Renzo, you guys knew each other. You guys go way back. Yeah. I didn't know Renzo or Brandon in 98. So we couldn't have this conversation in 98.
Yeah. I mean, for me, and I think I didn't get on the wave initially, only probably because all the other music was coming out. But I think within that first month, I got a hold of Capital Punishment. And like I said, I had to do with, you know, me and Brandon's boy, Kevin. But my first reaction was mind blown. Because again, I'm looking like, how do this big spit in the way he's spitting so effortlessly, you know? And kudos to what you're saying as far as that time frame, because if you think 98 was a kind of one of our favorite years, but it was also a transitional year too. When we think about the different sounds that were coming out, the bling bling stuff and more the flash or shiny suits, Pun was still more geared. Like when you look at a lot of this song, this could have came out 96 or 97, you know, and might have, you know, one could argue might have had a bigger impact then, even though it still had a big impact in 98. But like when you were just talking about the 3 songs in the skit, I didn't even realize that. I want to review that. Not saying you're lying, but
just take a look at it. It's broken up, is all I'm saying. Even if the numbers off, yeah.
And it's like when you think about, because I'll look back a lot of albums, some of our favorite albums back for that time frame, and one of my arguments would be like a lot of these skits or interludes didn't age well, or they should have been. I can't say that about Capital Punishment. Like everything fit the way they needed to fit, and they were good. You know, they're interventions to whatever next segment that was about to happen. Yeah, you know, and this
Taster's choice.
Just me thank to you. But yeah, that's the sequence. Like I said, it was a long album, but it didn't feel long. It didn't feel like you were just like, oh, when is this? There was really, because there's no fillers on there. You know what I mean? There's really no fillers. It feels on complete. There. Yeah, you know, and it's nice, like say you had the balance of subject matter, but even at that time, it had somebody like Black Thought on your album, which was unheard. Not so much like all that jumping on, but you know, because people thought punk gangster rapper here's this quote unquote more quote unquote lyricist, but they're going literally toe for toe. You know what I mean? I would say Black Thought probably one of the few rappers that did not get outshined by Pun. They almost like damn near canceled each other out. And a lot of rappers can't say that, you know, especially during that era.
Very even. Yo, Renz, and
Cannabis ran away. That was supposed to be Cannabis. That's what we put on Cannabis, remember?
Yeah, and I say this to you guys, Super Lyrical is my introduction to Black Thought. Never heard of him before, Super Lyrical. Never. I never heard a Roots album before then. That was my intro to Black Thought.
Yeah, and like as much as it was a big up for Black Thought to be on there, a big up for Pun to have Thought on there. It was also a big up for Black Thought to be on Pun. Like
it was a win-win situation, you know, for both of them.
Yeah,
you know, because I bridged the gap.
Yeah, I felt that way too. Like this is definitely branching out Black Thought to people as well as Big Pun is branched out at the same time. But I didn't even really realize it was 24 tracks on there because they don't feel like it.
Exactly.
It's included. But for me, I bought it in real time. I got the tape. I still got the tape on my wall a la Ray. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna just say this in '98. So we were like in middle school, about to go to high school. So we didn't really have we didn't have pocket money like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you had to make a choice. So like '98 is ridiculous in years of hip hop. So there was only 4 albums that I could buy, and then the rest is like good luck. I'll dub it. But if I wanted the original, real deal, I had 4 albums, and I had to choose, and it was Volume 2, Jay-Z. It was DMX, Dark as Hell is Hot. It was Onyx, Shut 'Em Down, and then my 4th choice, I went with Pun. So that was a big ass deal in '98 when you were broke as shit.
Damn, you walked out the store stacked, bro. Damn, bro.
Like
that's a couple weeks allowance money right there.
Word. Aquemini, it was choices, bro. Mr. Education, Lauryn Hill. I did not buy that because I had to choose. I'm like, so Pun was. I had to say Pun made it in my fave 4, but
Fantastic Four, one might say. No, I'm playing.
Oh, excellent execution. You know what I mean?
I like that, Renzo. He went Bret Hart.
Yeah, I would eventually get all those other albums I said, but I was on time for the release. I can say that. And it was just like a brilliance of like flavor, man, from all different sides, man. He had some banging features on there, banger production. Loud Records was a good space to be for him.
That was a perfect label, yeah. Definitely.
It was perfect, yo. And it really like changed like the course of that year, and then going into '99 as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you know what, B-Stacks? I think right, because we know when it comes to Pun, right, it's always like a quick conversation. First Latin rapper go platinum and still not a player. I think a lot of people who haven't heard the album like in the way that we have, like Pun really had subject matter range, because when he wasn't just giving you like the rewind button breaking bars, he has heartbreak on there. He's got the gangster rap. He's got the storytelling with Fast Money, which feels like a 90s action film. You know what I'm saying? He's got some conscious thoughts in there with parental discretion. You know what I'm saying? Like
Capital Punishment.
Yeah, Capital Punishment. Yeah, he's talking about his own cousin that committed suicide. You know, like he really like when he says he's like, I do it all hardcore commercial, but like he wasn't lying. Like he did all of that in this album, 24 tracks, but it's like 71-minute album. It's something. It's not like an 80-minute album, because people hear 24 tracks, they're probably gonna think that. But yeah, he like kind of hit every corner. You know what I mean? Like he hit every corner on that, man. And then the production you meant. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you go, bro. Do you guys feel like? So here's the thing with Capital Punishment. Like, if people say classic, people in real time, I think it got 4 out of 5 in the source, whatever. That was the glorified, critical breakdown on that. But is it so culturally? It is absolutely a classic piece of work culturally, like within hip hop. But do you guys give it like? Is it a classic beyond that? Like
100%.
Love that answer, Renzo. 100%.
No pun intended. I mean, I put Capital Punishment in the same line we put like Illmatic, or the Follow Leave with Rakim. You gotta put those in the same sentences. I don't think it's one of the things you say is classic because of X, Y. It's just a classic period. Like we just said, the non-skippable tracks, the skits, the interludes, everything else, the topics that he was able to touch, but so in a way where it didn't come all soft or come all sappy. Like he was able to hit a lot of different lanes within that first album. A lot of artists can't say they did on their debut album. They might maybe did that maybe on their second album, third album, as far as more range, but he had so much range within the debut album itself. And to be that long of an album with like really no fillers, like Glamour, he just did the hook, but you wouldn't feel that because how he projected himself on that song. You know what I mean? That's really just a Terror Squad song with him just doing the hook. But then he had the little stuff at the end. But like how you have a song like that, and it's like, and you still let your people shine, but you still think that's a Big Pun song first and foremost. You don't think that's like, okay, that's a TS song or TS featuring Pun or whatever. This is a Pun song. He's like, I want to let y'all guys eat. You know what I mean? But still stole it. That's off the hook. You know what I mean?
Well, when like did it creep into your Like I'm asking you personally.
Personally, I feel like
when you
it
felt
had to be
that
within that year. You know what I mean? Because I had enough, because we're not in the streaming era, obviously. So it's not like, all the other albums that came out same week. I actually was able to sit down, digest it, listen for the bars, the lyrics, the schemes, subject matter, and everything else. So I feel like within that, it might not have been like once, a week, a month. But I feel like within that 12-month period, I said, to me, this is going to definitely stand, within the test of time. You know what I mean? And every time I go back to it, it still sounds just as fresh as that initial. It don't feel dated. I was say the production for that time, but it doesn't feel like a dated album to me, like other albums that we might go back to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like besides me enjoying it in its real time consistently, and it's funny because there was a point in time where I was stuck on the first half of the album, and then eventually I got to the middle, and then the end, because
In
I was
segments,
just stuck in segments. But I knew it was an even further more certified classic because one, when you listen to it later, his style of rapping, his lyrics, the impact, the emphasis, the wittiness doesn't sound dated. But also what you got to understand is in real time on his first album, he was able to launch himself to the forefront of the who's the nicest MC conversation off his first album. He did that in 98. In 98, you got to look at everybody that came out then who had already been out. Look who he's done features with. He launched him. So that was the general consensus. Nobody that didn't have to be forced by a publication or something. He was and he stayed in that conversation to the time of his death. But with that album, you know what I'm saying? He launched himself to the front of the people who would be in that conversation, and he did it in one freaking album. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't an album that needed years to go by to get, to go gold, to go platinum. This wasn't an album that needed years to go by to be deemed a classic. It was understood then. It's understood now. I wish people would talk about it more for sure, but there's just a lot of other stuff that happens in hip hop. And there was other artists who were bigger than Big Pun. He didn't have a long career. But I just think that what he managed, what that album did, and how that catapulted him into conversations. Go to YouTube and look at comments, and people in 2023 are still calling him like a GOAT just off of 2 albums. He impacted the conversation, has carried with the people over the years, and that's one of the, I can't think of a better way to have the cosign on your legacy. And I'm going and that's how it hits for me, putting my own personal fanaticism aside,
for sure.
Well, Ray was about to allude to this, but the production on the album, I mean, Pun was straight laced, you know what I'm saying? Showbiz, RZA, Rockwilder, VIC, Dead Press, LES, Young Lord, Domingo. Come on, bro. On your first body of work, bro. I mean, damn.
and you know what's everybody you said there, right? Pun seemed to know, because I've read the Making a Capital Punishment. Pun was really the person that put, somebody didn't put this album together for him. Joe got him resources, no doubt. But the structure and the ideas and stuff were all Pun made this album. Once they gave him the resources, so Pun's the one picking the beats from those producers you just listed. Pun's the one. You know what was funny though? Getty said that Glamour Life was originally going to be over the Caribbean Connection beat. He said that, but then they changed it, for whatever reason. But to your point, B-Stacks, Pun, that's Pun's ear. He knew, okay, and he says it in an interview. On the first album, I wanted to show you I was the nicest lyricist MC, and he knew what sound to pick to complement that style. It's crazy. He got a RZA beat, in 98. He's got an Inspector Deck feature on there. Seemed to have a good relationship with the Woo early on. Technically, we've heard Pun over Dre.
Go outside their unit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the Woo they ain't share much. In that 90s era. So but okay, we'll slide over to the second body of work, Yeeeah Baby. And of course, Pun has a bunch of contributions and features. We'll get into that in the next phase. But by the time Yeeeah Baby comes around, I mean, it's only it's not even that much, we talking about a year and a half to 2, but it felt like in hip hop, it just feels way longer.
It was actually 2 full years because it was April of 2000.
2 full years. Okay.
Yeah, it was actually almost just a few weeks shy of 2 years. Yeah. But it did feel like forever. I will say that. It did feel like forever.
Yeah.
It's 4 years, you know.
Yeah.
Hip hop has changed by this time. Like, you know, just 2 years, a lot has changed. Stuff gets a little glossier. Like that Capital Punishment production sound is kind of over. Like now, you know, like
because
a showbiz.
You got Neptunes now, you got Swiss now, you got Timbaland, you got
That word boom bap now is starting.
We kind of transition, you know, from that sound at that point.
Right. Well, what were you guys, you know, the same thoughts, man? What were you guys' sentiments on Yeeeah Baby? Like the beginning, you know, standout cuts, moments, you know what I'm saying?
I was heartbroken when I popped it in the remember the JVC radio, my little black CD player radio. I remember when I popped the CD in, and you know how it'll show you how many tracks and the runtime. When I saw that the runtime was like, it says 52 minutes, like my heart actually sank a little, because I, you know, just the spoiled nature. It's just like, you know what I mean? And I remember thinking in real time, maybe he deliberately wanted to make a shorter album. I still like the album. It's cohesive. You could tell that, like I said, what he said in an interview, he wanted on the second album, his goal was to expand his fan base. So that's why the album does not sound as hardcore as Capital Punishment. That was by design.
By choice,
and I can honestly say I still like every song on there. The album is obviously, like, for me, it does feel too short. And Liza Rios actually confirmed within the last 2 years, I was telling Renzo this, that at the time of Pun's death, Pun told her, like, yo, you know, this might have even been a few days before he died. He's like, I want to do a few more songs for the album. And then I don't know if it was he'd get back on the exercise or whatever, but he told her, and she posted this on Facebook, Pun, you know, the album wasn't done. Pun had actually wanted to add more songs. I don't know, you know, so I'll just stop there, you know. So those, you know, like that's just, long story short, I still like this album. They still made it sound very cohesive. But her confirming it's not done sounds about right.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say it's complete, but not complete, but complete for our ears. But I could tell, you know, with the album that he wanted to expand, because when you think about it, he was trying to launch his artists on his album Foundation, Tony Sunshine, Remy Martin. I mean, he gave a cut like a la like Resident with Killer Priest. You know, he gave a track to who he felt was going to be the next Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown that time, which was at that time Remy Martin. You know what I mean? Not Remy Ma. So I look at that. I look at Raw Ones with him and Sunkiss, and I'm like, yo, who is this other dude that's going toe for toe, you know, with Pun? And you know, obviously, because we touch about here and there about Cuban, even if that Cuban Link Joe era still happened, you could tell Pun was trying to make sure his unit was still going to be good. And that was the vibe I got, like, all right, I'm in here now, I'm going to expand, but at the same time, I'm making sure at least my team, whether if that wasn't TS, it's going to be Foundation. You know, that's going to rock
Tony
out.
a lot of shine on there too. Tony's like on 3-4 cuts.
Tony
and you got a Young Just Blaze that he put, you know, who gave the, you know, production, you know, equipment to, you know, shine on there. So like it was an updated sound. I still like the album, but like you said, when Liza mentioned that stuff, it kind of made sense, because I felt like this album, he was trying to expand, but also trying to launch his peoples, you know, at this point. You could tell that he was looking at the bigger picture, almost like how big he was looking at the bigger picture with Junior Mafia at that point, you know, starting the Undies, but you know, Riviera, and everything else. But I mean, like when you listen to that album, like he still gave me the bars stuff, you know, but he gave that, you know, that comedy stuff. And I always felt like that's what he was going to segue, to, you know, do more of the comical stuff to show he had bigger range, like a la the Redman, and even more some of the shock stuff with like Eminem a little bit at that point. Because remember, he wanted to do a song with Eminem. You know, maybe that was one of the songs that he was trying to get done. You know, who knows how that would have, you know, came out, especially if we're talking about like almost like, you know, pre-prime Eminem and a prime Pun. That would have been, you know, something, especially on that type of album, been crazy.
Yeah, they had the hardcore lane.
Yeeeah Baby for me is very similar to Murder Music with Mobb Deep, as where like Pun's popularity and you know, just where he was at this point, like you're gonna like it anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like the Capital Punishment is like you're getting the infamous Hell on Earth treatment, where like the juju dust is still there, right? Regardless if the project was done, not done, skepticism, like his health, the untimely passing. Like in real time, you're just excited that we're getting another full length Pun album. Baby was definitely a little more like brighter and more radio friendly. But oddly enough, when you look at the production credit, he kind of like, if you're looking at the names and not looking at the sounds, the names are kind of in they're still in the formula.
So within that same family unit.
Yeah, he didn't go too far left. Like there isn't a Neptune's beat on there. You know what I mean? Like
there was like a random I don't know, somebody like totally left field.
There's no Chris Webber on there.
Oh, man. Just imagine, man. Blood Ashes. The original Blood Ashes with Pun and Webber. My God.
and Brandon, to your point, I've always felt like when you look at Yeeeah Baby, right? I like that Pun didn't try to make the same album twice, but what I like about Yeeeah Baby is when you look at songs like Leatherface, Wrong Ones, and New York Giants, that has capital punishment rhyming level on there. You know what I mean? Where it's like those are the hit you across your face joints. You know what I mean? So it's like he did pepper it in there. Who knows how many more of those he would have thrown on there, right? We'll never know. And then like Renz, like you were saying, when you look at like a It's So Hard and the My Dick joint with Tony Sunshine, Laughing at You, and watch those feel like, Brand, like you said, brighter, and there's a little bit more lighthearted. Again, he's still throwing his stuff in there because he also still got the Off With His Head still stuff on there. So it seemed like he was trying to bring his core audience over from album one, but then also get like the more casual listeners to say, okay, maybe you won't listen to every album of mine, but let me at least listen to this one. This album introduced us to Remy, like you said, and man, there was another thing on here I wanted to point out. I can't remember. That's all I got. But but I don't know. I mean, but like I said, I think with what they had left, it was enough. Like, all right, we got 16 cuts. Renzo, I don't know if I think I told you this, Brandon. I don't know if I told you this, but you remember Kalani. Kalani did an interview with Cuban Link. And in his Street Dreams magazine, I bought this one off the, for that interview purely. And Cuban Link said because Pun couldn't be around for 24K's recording because Pun's career has launched and he's doing his own thing. Pun said to Cuban, all right, I'll let you pick a song off of the Yeeeah Baby sessions and you can take and put on 24K. And Cuban Link picked Cheat on Her. Cheat on Her was originally on Yeeeah Baby. And he said Pun actually fought him on that one. You know what I'm saying? But Cheat on Her was actually on Yeeeah Baby. But, we heard it. It was brought to our attention via 24K. But, imagine that. Imagine that one.
Oh,
on
so
Yeeeah
imagine
Baby.
that on Yeeeah Baby, because that could have been.
That's a hit. That's a radio
player for Yeeeah Baby. Cheat on Her. Because, Pun went off. He said ran more trains in the third rail or something.
Mind you, this used to be a church girl. Well, let me ask you guys this, because we did technically ask this question on the with Capital Punishment. How did you feel when like It's So Hard, right? This is the first single. When It's So Hard hit, how did you guys feel about that one? Like, it's a lot. Yeah,
that's because in between the hook we talking about, I'm down to 4 and I'm trying to lose this weight. I'm trying to live like.
I know. Like, damn. That one crushed me, bro. Yeah, that one. I remember that one.
And that's throughout the album. You could tell he was struggling a little bit with some of those verses. Like the birth control wasn't the same.
They punched him in a lot, I heard.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like so cynical, but it's almost like you could almost hear him like in some song. It felt like he was dying. It just had that vibe without having that vibe. But especially when the video came out, because it was a tribute video anyway. And you just hearing it's like, man, it was so hard because like we just deal with that was probably the first time I really was impacted by rappers' death. No, obviously we had Pac and Biggie, but we're talking about elementary school.
We were older now.
I can't really fully process that. I can process this now as almost as an adult. I'm like, man, this guy was 28 years old. Just touching the surface. You know what I mean? And if we're gonna pick up, you can think about like on the Terror Squad album, when on his little solo cut, you can tell, right? Like he's talking about in my last dying days, like he's already
trying to savor these
almost like on Pac Vision, like I don't have that much time left. I want to cram as much as I can get in between these albums, between these features. between these collaboration projects. I'm trying to cram as much as I can because my time is ticking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he knew what he was up against with that struggle. Yeah. And to anybody who like listening to this episode, definitely check out that Terror Squad Crew album. It's incredible. It's a project that came out between Capital Punishment and Yeeeah Baby. And it's so hard. You know what's weird? It's so hard to slowly becoming one of my favorite singles from him. But you notice how you hear how it's like a slower tempo song, you know what I'm saying? And and obviously once they when 100%, when I heard that one, it was a wrap. Like that one, I love that song like forever. I'm glad that he gave us that before he left. I will say that. Hearing that one, I've been to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and they play, salsa merengue, all the music, from the islands. But like 100% is now in that Puerto Rican Pride playlist. I love that he gave us that, and like I said, he sampled from a famous Puerto Rican artist for that one. B-Stacks, how'd you feel? Like It's So Hard comes out. Like how'd you feel about the singles, right? Because we know how we felt when the Capital Punishment singles happened. You know what I'm saying? So how are you feeling? The Yeeeah Baby album cycle's approaching. It's So Hard now is the leadoff single.
Yeah, so I think like with a Pac, it was like really, he was already in a kind of darker tone anyway, before his passing. So like Machiavelli is like a darker album. I think what helped liberate this whole situation with Big Pun's untimely death is that Yeeeah Baby is a bright album, and he's going into a brighter phase. So it was really hard to stay, and for me personally, it was hard to stay stuck on sad because what was coming from the LP was so like vibrant. You know what I mean? Like, It's So Hard. Like he did the comic relief in there, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
laughing
hard
at you. Yeah, he literally has the laughing at you joint, like ha ha. Like
I'm laughing at you now.
my D. It's like it's hard to stay. It was hard to stay in a bad place with this joint. But then you're left with the reality, like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, man, you're not gonna get nothing else with him alive. So
that crushes me every time.
I remember, by the time now I got money now, like I got a job and I'm just buying everything, you know what I'm saying?
That's so my wife. I pay for them titties.
you owned, you heard?
Yeah, I feel like it aged well, and in real time I was banging with it, you know what I mean? He did a good job of like that whole like life after death second album treatment, sophomore album. What you gonna do now? We gotta it's mouths to feed, it's careers to launch. We got to make money, and you also have to be true to this hip hop thing. So I think he did that perfectly on this one, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sure. I would say for me, and even though I know Yeeeah Baby was not complete, like for me, I say Pun was 2 for 2 at the time of his death. I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think he was 2 for 2. I think even if Yeeeah Baby was a complete album, I don't think it winds up being better than Capital Punishment, but it showed like, yo, Pun's a star and Pun knows how to make music. He's not just a rapper rapping, like this guy, he really understands how hip hop music should sound, And
he was marketable. And we're probably going to segue with this with the other stuff, but I look at it like, had Pun not passed, is he the one that's kind of ushering that reggaeton movement, not Nord, just because when I think about the Latin explosion, we can talk about Ricky Martin, we can talk about General, but Pun was the Latin explosion. I don't think you have none of that, honestly, without Capital Punishment.
Not at all.
Pun even did some reggaeton joints in the early 90s. I got him.
Yeah, there wasn't their
iTunes.
album because there was one. Remember, I think Nas at that time did with Daddy Yankee was under Worcester Yankee or something like that. At that point, I know there was some stuff there, but I think he would have kind of been that maybe not the face, but kind of the one opening that door more so that at that point and everything. I could see if he had another album, he would have definitely had elements of that to represent that culture as well. Obviously, but still kept it within the hip hop realm. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Cuban did it. Joe got on the ring. Like they definitely gave it a shot. But of everybody we just said, right? Nori, Cuban, Pun, Joe. Pun was bigger than all of them.
Exactly.
He 100% like probably would have been the guy they reached out to first for all.
Exactly.
That would have been interesting because he welcomed that. He celebrated that. I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would have been interesting to see what those summers would have been like, man.
For sure.
Yeah. So go ahead.
well, obviously it doesn't. Yeah, Baby doesn't get like the classic appraisal as Capital Punishment does in like in internal hip hop circles.
No.
But Yeah, Baby definitely is the one that you go to when, I'm gonna tell you this, on February 7th, like Yeah, Baby, those are the joints that gets that massive play, that reached everybody. Like the Thriller, that's the Thriller album. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's debatable, right? Like we could say that it wasn't complete or whatever, but for the masses, I think that's the one that is the calling card. For
And you know what? And I'll just say this real briefly. I know that right, like the third album wasn't right. That was just like the label put that together and it had some unreleased joints. That was the Endangered Species joint, which is funny because Endangered Species was the original title. Yeah, Baby. Yeah. And you know what's crazy, Renz? You can actually find pictures of Pun wearing a promo t-shirt promoting Endangered Species, like where in place of Yeah Baby. But what I was gonna say is the only thing I wonder which of the unreleased joints like Mama and My World, like which like were those gonna be for Yeah Baby or like Capital Punishment. I know the How We Roll 98 joint would have been Capital Punishment, right? I definitely kind of wondered to myself, like Mama, I think could have slid in on Yeah Baby, I think. But I genuinely wonder, or were they not yet decided? You know how artists will record, but they don't know where they're gonna put it yet. I wonder, of those unreleased joints, which ones were maybe yanked from Yeah Baby.
I think Mama would have been on Yeah Baby. Had it not been
right, would have fit
sample. That one, Local Bananas, I feel like that would have been more. That could have fit, but I could see also fitting on Capital Punishment. But I know Local Bananas was recorded around the Yeah Baby sessions.
Feels like it too, yeah.
A very that was one of my Jones too. Local bananas.
You want to go to war? I love everything they did with Scarface, bro. I love it. They never failed at that.
But Mama definitely would have been a Yeah Baby cut, for sure.
What you gonna say, B-Stacks?
Either way.
What'd you say?
You said either way?
My turn. My turn to joint.
Oh yeah.
Wait, say that again. I didn't hear that.
The cut, My Turn.
My turn's on. Yeah,
Yeah,
Baby.
On Yeah Baby though.
You're talking about My World.
We're talking about we're talking about like unreleased stuff that was on Endangered Species and the stuff that hit like the cutting floor.
Yeah, which unreleased joints that went on that third album, The Endangered Species? I just wondered, like, which one were they officially intended for? We know which ones sound like which one would have went to which. Like that My World joint feels a little more Capital Punishment. But
that's
again, it has that feel. But so again, things will never, unless Cuban was to confirm that. But but yeah, man. So I guess right. So those are the albums, right? So now I guess the question is, and B-Stacks, if I'm jumping ahead, by all means, I guess we're going to legacy chat now, or I don't know if there was any other stuff.
Let's get into it. So we, we go to Yeah Baby, but we, there's a chunk of time in between that where, there's a Terror Squad album, there's mixtapes, there's freestyles, there's group projects.
The infamous Cuban Link bootleg.
You even had the DMX versus Cannabis joint, which Pun featured on a couple times.
Well, he wanted to get in that, right? Like the DMX Cannabis Nori, the Hot 97 freestyle. Pun, they told the story that Pun actually was trying to get in the building, but they wouldn't let him in. He wanted to get in that. And like that's what I liked about him. Pun didn't run from battles. He wanted to be a part of them.
He wanted all the smoke. Before that was a catchphrase. That was his persona.
All his features from 97 to 98, you could pretty much say he blew everybody out that he was with. How many times where he got smoked?
He never got smoked. I think some people might have kept up at most.
Like I would say Banned from TV. I also say Nature was just right there, especially with the Positive Features line. But I looked at Pun, so when we were talking about, obviously he only had 2 songs while he was living. But I've always felt like Pun had that Pac ethic for collaborations. Like Pac already knew I gotta get all these songs and these albums done. Pun took that on the collaboration feature route. You look at all the different features, whether they were mainstream, underground cuts, or whatever. He was on everybody's stuff. He was even on Mr. Serv-On. You
Yeah,
know
he
what I
did
mean?
work with No Limit, bro.
Like,
He did
No
work with
Limit.
Digital Underground. Like,
yeah. I mean, like his range. Like, you think about Digital Underground and fucking Pun. Like, on paper, it don't make sense, but we hear the song, like, oh, that.
yeah.
And this matter that came out on a single level. Like, that has, to me, a single written all over it. You know, I could see a video for that. I mean, I remember when I first heard that, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? There's so much that could have been done, you know what I mean?
What's some of your, favorite stuff from him, non-album, like, just contributions?
Contributions, I mean, Shut 'Em Down remix. I thought he just blacked out on that. We can talk about Band for TV. We can talk about, Fantastic Four, contributions. But I mean, his whole work on the Terror Squad album. He was the glue for that album. And as Ray mentioned, I think that was a very underrated album. I just think it was bad marketing, going with that album. But like, we're talking about debut group albums, because that was essentially what it was, a group album. You can put it, I'll put it up there with with East 99. I'll put it up there, with 36 Chain, because their chemistry at that time was so fluid. Even with the inner beef with him and Armageddon, you wouldn't know that in real time that was going on, because they were still being about business about that. But that, to me, that album was damn near flawless too. I can't really say there was a bad track, quote unquote, on that Terror Squad album. You know what I mean?
There's no skips on that. Like, they didn't even do any pointless skits. They just got to business on that. Like, and everybody got a solo. That was a very well. If you talk like crew albums, like every crew that ever put out an album, this one would be in like. I think this is better than like when G Unit did one, and they were a much bigger crew. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's in like actual crew albums. I think if you really make a list, this one should be top 5. I genuinely think that. And you don't believe me? Just press play. That's it, Brandon, I know you said like, what are some other ones? Like, Pun had some lesser known features. He got one with a dude called Ross Sun called "I'll Be Around."
Oh yeah,
I love that one. He was like, my twins already know I'm always amped and ready to roll, lending me dough for Pampers when it was 20 below. Like, they actually tried to repurpose that verse on like a Mariah Carey and Nori feature that never really got an official release. But yeah, Pun, his Wikipedia, I've looked at it. Of the music, of the features, it's pretty up to date. What's crazy is what was I gonna say? I recently found out, like within the last year, I remember I told you guys he did some song in 99, 2000 called like Turn Your Love Around. And it's by some artist named Paradise, and Prospects on there. And one of Pun's verses like one we've heard before, and one is one we've never heard before. You know what I mean? So he's got like, yo, do you know that Big Pun did the Getting Jiggy With It remix with Will Smith? Do you guys know that?
There's a remix with Will Smith?
Yeah, dude, I found this. I forget that I have the song. That's number one. I forget that this is.
I didn't know there was a remix.
Yo, this is one of the 3 times I ever paid for music off of iTunes. I could never find it on Google. It's the So Dev remix, Getting Jiggy With It. Cameron's on there, and there's a Newark artist named ROC that used to do a lot of songs with Jermaine Dupri, and he had, I could provide you guys that. And Pun has a remix joint with Mary J. Blige. Brandon, I know you know your R&B, so Mary J. Blige did a remix of a joint called Round and Round, and Big Pun is on the remix.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's him. He's like saying her. He's like Ave Maria, Maria. Like, he's talking about. Yeah, there's some joints. They're there. I have them, but these are joints that people don't really talk about. Like in these deep.
Oh yeah, even the Naughty by Nature joint too. Him and Tretch.
Oh, I love that song.
That's such a banger.
That should have gotten the single treatment, man.
Yeah,
that was so good. Yeah, there's a lot. I know we could go on for 3 more hours on that, but there is a lot that he did in a span of 2 years.
He got big. I'm gonna give one offering, and then I can move on. But the Delinquent Habits joint with
West.
That's bad.
That was a banger.
Poker.
That's like throwing Pun a gun and trying to run with no equilibrium. I sold a million. Now I'm really on. Oh my god.
Anytime you have Beat Nuts upon anyway, you just press play. You know what I mean?
Yo, Juju, Beat Nuts laced Terror Squad. Like, Juju did What You Gonna Do. Juju did Beware.
Beware.
Yeah. Like, yo, man. there was some good relationships there, man. Too much happened when Pun died, bro. Too much got broken when he died, man.
Yeah,
You know?
great synergy with other acts. Um,
Yeah.
so we covered the two albums. We covered the discography in between. So the legacy, left behind, right? So, like, what do you guys feel Pun's overall cast on hip hop culture? Like, where is it present day? Where do y'all feel like it's going? And and where was it at the time of his passing?
I think it's bigger than a lot of people realize, because I mean, we look at artists now, especially on the Latino spectrum, before where it was almost how can we market you, quote unquote. Now it's like, okay, he's Puerto Rican guy, he's Cuban guy, he can spit. We'll put him in. I mean, you look at Pitbulls, that like there's not a lot of big major labels now question Latin artists in hip hop as far as marketability, where you had that kind of happening prior. Now it's almost like an afterthought. Your biggest artist right now, period, is Bad Bunny, who just pretty much just raps and sings in Spanish. So that's where we're at right now, and I don't think you have that unless you have, a big Pun saying, hey, you can market a big heavy set guy, who could still give you that Biggie vibe, being, still be a ladies' man, still give you that lyrical stuff and everything else. So I don't think you have a lot of the stuff you hear musically, even they're not directly influenced by Pun, without Pun today, if we're talking about in that spirit of things.
Yeah, man. I think when you look at his legacy, and you got to understand, like, he in a span of 2 years, and I emphasize 2 years because that's not a long career at all, and it's a short life period. He contributed one of the best debut albums in hip hop because it's always in conversations. He was Grammy nominated after his first album. He did this, almost came home with the Grammy on his first try. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He broke through to the mainstream on his first try. He is at least part of two of the best hip hop posse cuts ever, John Blaze and Banned from TV. He's part of one, like I just said, part of one of the best crew albums in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? He was constantly in the conversation. Brandon, you just said this, constantly in the conversation of having the best verse on most of his features. And at the time of his death, he was the biggest rapper. He was the biggest artist out of the Bronx, the biggest, you know what I mean? And on a, like on a social side, I saw like this BET interview he did. And remember, he had his own barbershop there. And he literally says in the camera, he said, shop here. He's like, spend your money here, because he's like, when you spend your money here, he's like, you get to invest into your own neighborhood and it goes back out. Like the money goes where it should. He's already, this is in a span of under 2 years. This is where his mind was at. You know what I'm saying? These are things that I think could be more emphasized. Again, I know a lot is happening in hip hop in at all times, in all regions. But there's a lot of things to know, like what he did. Again, 2 years he did this,
And does Fat Joe still have a career? There's no Pun around.
Yeah,
literally.
because
Literally.
Joe.
Let's be honest, man. I like Joe, but is he at where he's at if he doesn't quote unquote discover Pun?
Yeah,
Probably
Joe
not.
clearly had Joe clearly had an ear for talent. I will 100% give him that. He wouldn't have trusted the others for their help on his music. But yeah, like. But Pun, Joe clearly had an ear for talent. We don't know about Pun if him and Joe don't cross paths, right?
Yeah.
But Joe clearly, Pun provided a financial springboard that honestly, who else has Joe worked with that was going to do that? You know what I mean? Joe blows up. Pun and Joe meeting is why Joe blew up, why DJ Khaled blew up. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about the trickle down effect. So yeah, that's a very good point. It's a very good point. Pun's reach is bigger than we think.
Yeah. I mean, Joe probably would have just remained a DITC affiliate, which ain't bad. But he probably would have just remained that. But when I look at Pun's legacy, man, I think there's a lot more to come. Actually, with him getting the recent Boulevard. You know what I mean? The street.
We were there.
We were there in spirit for that, and
the one where we went. You actually remember me, you and Brian?
Yeah. We was in the building, literally.
Yeah.
But I think there's more to come. You know what I mean? He definitely gets the flowers, like in our cultural like hip hop culture. But I think there's more to come in the vein of like I'll compare him to a Big L, right? Where Big L was like underground, and he passed away underground. And so Big L is just going to remain probably like where he's at. You know what I mean? Like where things are today, where Pun passed away as a superstar. You know, I don't hear his name as much as I would like to, but I feel that something's coming. You know what I mean? I don't know what, but maybe in the form of like documentaries or big motion picture films or series. I think there's still more room to grow to get younger people informed on him and older people informed on what happened during that short music career.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would love for that to definitely happen, man. Definitely doesn't get mentioned enough, but yeah, you said it best, man. So but I hope his name just I will say Fat Joe has never tried to like hide his name from, you know, like Fat Joe keeps his name alive as well. You know, I will say that like Fat Joe definitely don't try to pretend with that. I know there's the other stuff, right? Like, which is, you know, with them or whatever, but you know, but yeah, so I mean, I agree. I honestly, I wish people would kind of like sample his voice in music more. You know what I mean? Just to keep him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we see Primo do that with a lot of the legends and stuff, and it'd be cool if he could be brought into the next generation through song like that too.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, it's funny when you mentioned about sample his voice. Remember when we would work doing the God Body, you know, mixtapes and, you know, playlists and stuff. Remember I used that stat selector and it had like a little pun scratch, you know, sample, and that put it, you know, into the triplets, John. I remember you were like, yo, man, how you sequence that. But I mean, look at Legacy, look at the name of our podcast, Tres Leches Radio. I mean, we literally named our podcast off that song, you know, for that Faithful Night, you know, and that was from that Faithful Night Beatnut show, Psycho Les and Tash show that me and Brandon went to that we nearly died on going way back home. But then, you know, dialing you up, right? Like, yo, we gotta do this. We got to name it Tres Leches Radio. Like, well, we didn't have the radio port. We said we got to start with Tres Leches, you know, and everything like that. Yeah,
it's funny you bring that up, sir. It's almost like we scheduled to talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 21st track of Capital Punishment is titled Tres Leches Tri-Borough Trilogy, quote unquote, featuring Prodigy and Inspector Deck. And if you ask me, you know, 15, 20, 10 years ago, would that track have any relevance to like my personal life? Other than music, I would say, hell no, I don't know what you're talking about. But that definitely became the name of this podcast. And I think Brent, you get the credit for the name. It's a fuzzy night, you know what I mean? It's a fuzzy
to say the least.
To
say the least, yeah. I think I could call Ray like 1:30 in the morning, you know, just with the rambles.
I remember you get, but you know I never knew who. I thought Brandon came up with it, but you guys could discuss that. But I know that it came from like the name of it was Tres Leches, and all I did was add radio onto it because what I was also seeing is anytime I would Google Tres Leches, right, like it's the dessert. It's a literal dessert that's coming up, and like we get lost in the shuffle. So the radio, I've noticed that when I Google Tres Leches Radio, it just goes like right to us. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things to kind of give it, you know, replace podcast with radio, just to kind of give it that kind of feel. But yeah, that name came from one of you guys, 100%, and I always thought that was genius. I always, when I heard it, like, you know how like when you just, you know, the feeling you get when you hear a good idea. And I remember when that title was thrown out, even in its Tres Leches form, I was like, oh my God, that's good. That was like, that was it. Like, there was no reason to be like, let's wait and see if there's a second, third idea. Nah, that one was out the park. That was the grand slam at the bottom of the ninth, you know, World Series winning hit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to say 2012, 2013, I had started doing a podcast called the 2 Cents Podcast. And it was me and my partner Armand. He showed up here a couple episodes ago from Mobb Deep, and that was just terrestrial, like internet, like I don't even know the word, we were using the word podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like internet show or something. Shout out to Combat Jack and like Juan Ep, you know, like Cypher Sounds, Rosenberg. I know like they were like actual dudes that were doing it in those days. Now it's become a phenomenon. But Brandon Ray would always, you know, pop up as like guest, and that kind of started like our synergy, just like talking about hip hop culture topics. And yeah, that program just, just became defunct. You know what I mean? Armand had other things to do. And I also, had other endeavors. So we kind of ran our course with that. But it kind of was the groundbreaking for Tres Leches for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, very well titled. Even had some segments named the Taster's Choice. I mean, this is, from a music. Pun is in our, like, embedded in our DNA. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes this episode great, because how like people be like, how people have like the t-shirts, J Dilla changed my life, or or this thing changed my life. Or like for me, I think like it's very few artists that have like an impact in my life, and Big Pun's probably one of the biggest ones, because I'm making certain decisions in my life that were based off of things that came from his mind, his creativity. And and I don't mean like my idea. I'm just saying decisions where it's like, if something's presented to me and it has a tie to him, you know what I mean? And it looks like, we all are. So that's why he'll probably always be my favorite, because it spills out into real life outside of the headphones, So,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. So yeah, man, that's the origin story, So I don't know if you guys had anything. What was that?
Y'all don't know how many times people ask, like, yo, why the name? And then sometimes I do it, and then sometimes I it's like, yeah, if y'all not gonna get it immediately, I'm not willing to break it all the way down. But it not always leads itself to with our name.
Yeah.
Well said. So
absolutely.
so that's putting the bow on it. Like B Stacks usually says on the pun episode, and how it connects to us. By the time you guys are seeing this, it'll be February 7th. And hopefully this will be one of the rare times I'll check the radio out to see if they're throwing any of his music on. I sometimes do that. And I mean, either way, I will have pun in rotation. Especially, I do that on anniversaries, sometimes album anniversaries, passing anniversaries, whatever the artist is. There's just something in me that says, yo, throw that one on. So that's what I'll be doing on the 7th in 2 days. And anybody watching this, by all means, if let us know if you feel like we left anything out, or if you just anything pun related, let us know what you think in the comments section. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you guys got anything else.
I think we covered it. You know what I mean? Literally.
Yeah. Go check us out on all platforms as usual. Even the socials, man. I mean, we definitely reach out and connect with people.
At Tres Leches Radio, everything.
Everywhere.
And on that note, we are gone. You guys take care and let us know what you think of this video. Peace.
Peace.